will be looking at all these narratives. For us, absolutely, in literature, we call them texts and narratives. And we will explore today's concept of toy stories, objects, emotions, and the post-human turn. So before I get started, it's very important for us to understand that today's session will have different things that we've been never heard about, because we will be looking into Bill Brown's theory, we'll be looking to Sarah Ahmed's theory, and we will also be looking at Sylvan Tompkins' theory also, which will position a new dimension, or probably it will unveil a new dimension of what we can understand of the very prop called toy in children's literature anytime. So if we move ahead, if you can see this particular screen, you can see that there are some pictures put up there. You can see the AI aspect of the child there. You can see the Toy Story snippet here. You can see how children are involving with toys. And this is a very normal post-human turn, how things in post-humanity work absolutely for us. And then probably I have no idea how many of you have thought when this particular title was popping up in our groups, wherein you are up for one more new FDP on Sentient Toys and Algorithmic Friends, Posthuman Childhoods and Contemporary Children's Literature. I don't have an understanding as to how many people in my call today have meditated about what does this title really mean. Yesterday I didn't discuss with this title because it wasn't relevant yesterday, but today definitely, because we talk about toys as one of the most important elements of a child's play, and there are no child's play anymore. They have a lot of symbolism attached to them, and we will definitely know as to toys as how we very normally think them to be objects have got another symbolic understanding that they become things in our lives. And that's the reason why probably when I was giving the title to this particular FTP, I was very cautious of using the word sentient, because sentient as the word means is not just what you think is AI enability or smart toys that rather kids are using these days anytime. No, I don't mean that. I'm sorry. I meant only one aspect of toys when I talk about it. That particular toys, which are, oh God, just a minute. Right. That particular toys, I must tell you, which are actually living. They can respond. They can be reactive. They can perceive. They can feel things. They're conscious or whatnot. They are absolutely. That's the reason why you can see the title. My first slide also talks about what's up with the title. The title means the same thing. Algorithmic Friends, probably in my on the third day of our meeting, we will talk about algorithmic friends. Right now, I won't talk about that. Our particular understanding about sentient toys. So toys doesn't mean, at least in this post-human era, they don't mean something which is AI enabled or smart, because we all understood that post-human is not about anthropocentric. It is about our relationships with the environment, which are non-human, absolutely. But there is a literary and conceptual dimension to it. Toys in children's literature are absolutely portrayed as alive. They're very conscious. They're emotionally responsive. They can feel things. They're living beings, and they're responsive to whatnot you can think of. One example, if I have to give you, there is one story called The Velveteen Rabbit, and very famous movie. I think even all of us watched, all of us cried whenever we were watching Toy Story 1, 2, 3, 4, probably. How toys world is entirely different, but their emotions are absolutely same, and all these things probably we all must have watched this movie alike when our kids were actually watching anytime. So yes, this is what I mean by sentient toys, which means that yes, toys have their own emotions. They're very effective. They're emotive. So these things are pretty important whenever we deal with children's literature. As such, we are dealing with children's literature. Every element, every prop that a child comes up with in their life has got a different meaning. Probably I can say has got a symbolic meaning attached to it. And then what is a post-human angle attached to it? Yes, whenever we talk about toys, we no longer actually have any distinction. We don't have a boundary now, because in a post-human world, we know that there is not much of a difference between human, non-human, and machine. Agencies are absolutely the same. Yesterday, if you all remember, we were talking about Catherine Hayles' theory of information and embodiment. You can never consider our information and embodiment to be independent. It is absolutely one. And we have so many roles that we perform, knowingly, unknowingly, consciously, unconsciously, over media possible. We have also looked at Donna Haraway's cyborg theory, where she talks about how we people can never think about us being the primary supremo, like Enlightenment theory, where we can think about how man is the only one, man has relational, man has got that rational, universal being, thinking. No longer you can think about all these things, because every element that we react, act, connect with has got their own understanding, which blurs that very thin line between what is human, what is non-human, and what is absolutely machine agency. We've also looked at one more theory of relational subjectivity by Braidotti, wherein we have understood that we as a single entity can never exist, because as I've been talking about, we have already almost blurred all those boundaries which can be categorized as human, non-human, or machine as such. Now, what is that we have to understand and look at when we talk about the sentient toys with respect to post-human children's contemporary literature? It is where one should look for what childhood actually means in post-humanity, what is the identity that we create, and what kind of relationships are we imagining with the very common object of play of children, that is toys, which are actually now being looked at, that can think, feel, and absolutely act. So no longer you can think of a prop, which is very common thing that we say, which was in the background most of the time that children play with. They are not actual toys. They are also absolutely beings, because they can feel, perceive, and actually they are very conscious, and they're living equally life along with us. So this is what is the title I mean by sentient toys, and how we locate sentient toys' existence, their importance, their relevance, their agency in post-human childhood is what is our talk today about, absolutely. And then now one pertinent question will come up in your mind as to, ma'am, why have we, or why are we actually talking about toy stories? What is the importance? Definitely there is a definite importance. The term toy story refers to narratives where toys, objects, or material things are no longer passive props, but they become very symbolic, emotional, and they become very ontological processes. I'm sure we all know about these things as literati. What do they indicate? As I have been talking in the first and second slides, toys are no longer those plastic physical elements anymore. They have got their own emotions, that is, they have their effective understanding, they are very symbolic, and they all participate in the process of existence. Ontological process is nothing but the existence is of toys as such in a child's life is pretty important. Actually, I'm sure for your birthdays, for the birthdays of your children, probably when your children are in infancy to one particular age, we have no other gift that we can think anytime rather than gifting toys to our children. Yes, that toy that you gift so passively without thinking actually has a lot of potential to impart gender from a 3 to 4 aged girl or a boy. Through toys and through colors, I've got a lot of potential to understand that very fluid topic called gender, I can tell you. And this is proven fact. I'm giving you only out of research that I can tell you. So yes, their existence matters, their emotionality matters, their symbolism also definitely will matter. And that particular stories which are centered around the child, their childhood, and the object that they use have got lot of symbolic elements and understandings, because we talk about toys and the relationship between toy. I call that particular symbiotic relationship between the child and the toy, which is completely very understandable to us with respect to attachment. Yes, every toy has got a certain attachment with respect to culture, with respect to memory, with respect to identity, with respect to loss, with respect to transformation, whatnot you can really think about. And I think this is the symbiotic relation a child and a toy ever has in our life. Probably, if I'm not wrong, your children who are absolutely watching TV now, the Chota Bhim's Laddu itself has got some different orientation, and probably the toys that are shown that children play in any serials, or for that matter any soap operas, you can observe that they have got a lot of attachment towards it. Probably we people who must have played with lattu, I'm sure we all know the word lattu, in our childhood. Now when we accidentally come across that, we may have different stories that we may attach. Probably that was something very symbolic of our memory, those days when we were playing to relax at one particular point of time, or we had that understanding that Laktu has lot of loss, imagination, or memory, or some kind of a transformation that we all must have undergone when we were playing that with that particular toy. That is the reason I say you is no longer a toy. It's not at all to be considered right now in post-human ideology as a non-human entity. It is no longer, I think you can say, inanimate, because these are absolutely mediators. How do they mediate? They mediate between the living being, that is a human, and the non-human. The toy itself, being a very non-human entity, has that symbolic relationship with the human beings because it evokes the emotions, effective imagination, loss, memory, identity. Oh, so many feelings are absolutely evoked whenever we talk about toys as mediators. And I think it also can give rise to a lot of binary, that is self and the other also at a particular point of time. And every aspect of toy matters: the material they are manufactured with, or the manufacturing itself, absolutely. And all these physical elements, physicality, liminal elements of the toys also has the power of really evoking emotions and memory to our brain whenever we think of it. For example, I've been talking about a classic example of the Velveteen Rabbit. I'm sure most of us must have read this particular novel by Barrie Williams in 1922, where the toy, the story actually is something like there is a toy rabbit actually, and it is very bad in its condition, and it always had one thing in its mind, that it should become real. And it also has that particular aspect that somebody should love me so dearly, and they should really love me so really realistically, that that their pure love should definitely convert me from being a very normal velveteen stuffed rabbit to actual living being, is what is the stuffed rabbit actually thinks about. And yeah, it becomes absolutely true. With the help of an angel, this particular rabbit, which is a velveteen rabbit, turns into a real life rabbit, and it goes into the forest and lives there. And because the boy who owns it loves it, he gets into, probably the story is like the boy gets into a scarlet fever, and then his parents wanted to discard all the toys. This velveteen rabbit was one amongst that, and they think of really actually disposing it by, because the rabbit was absolutely crying. It says, it prays that no, I don't want to get discarded. Rather, my masters, the boy who owns it, love should definitely make me so realistic. And yes, there was one angel who listens to it, and she really turns her. And because this rabbit, which is a stuffed rabbit, now becomes an original real life rabbit, goes into the forest. And this boy sometimes he had some work, and he crosses that particular forest, and he readily recognizes this rabbit, and that rabbit feels so happy. Now you can no longer think from this very story that toy rabbit, actually rabbit, becomes a real rabbit. And that emotion of love is very important in transforming something which is a non-human to the human entity all the time. And then Pinocchio, I think most of us know this, that very long nose of the Pinocchio, where we can see that because this particular wooden toy, which was manufactured by a wooden carpenter, initially had nothing, no meaning, no symbolism attached. But when this particular toy becomes the symbolic element of transformation, morality, and all these things, we can understand that toys also have that particular feature of turning something or transforming from object to subjective, which is very, very important aspect in our post-human understandings. And I'm sure the very famous Toy Story Pixar movie is a very good example, classic example of a postmodern reinterpretation, wherein we humans only don't have a, what I can call a social life, or for that matter, life which should be independent, is what we think. But all the toys in this particular story are those toys of their owner Andy, and they all, when they were brought, they think that they don't want to live in this world. They want to have a independent life, and they want to really leave that particular place and become independent and lead a life on par with humans. Absolutely. So these are the classic examples which tell you that toys which you thought non-human are absolutely sentient. They have all that emotive feelings. They can feel, they can even impart, they can transform actually. In the Indian If I have to give you an example, The Dead Prince and the Talking Doll it is a Kannada folktale, which is a collection by A.K. Ramanujan, where the doll speaks and it will also reveal hidden truths. And here, the object called the doll, it becomes the moral agency. It is through the doll that all the truth is ever revealed, and the secrets are out, and the cat is always belled. All these things happen actually. And there is one wonderful what I can call narrative by Sudhaji Tilak, which is the great toy debate 2023, wherein we come across essay kind of a narrative where we come across those indigenous toys, like the toys which are made in India with respect to clay or material difference and all those things, which has a lot of history attached to them with respect to memory, heritage, also emotional geography that can be spanned with the help of these toys. And you will see this wonderful what you can call debate between the actual toys, organic toys I can call you, and the plastic toys, and how an excellent narrative is brought out which talks about how toys actually become the cultural bearers, and they also a very good example of memory loss and transformation in our day-to-day lives that we can really think about. And there is one very classic example of the blue umbrella. Most of us must have read it. That particular umbrella actually attaches itself a lot of feelings, social emotions. It becomes the object of desire and everything that you can think of, and it also evokes a lot of emotions within us. And then I was talking about the indigenous toys like Chennapatna toys, wooden toys, Kondapalli toys. All these things are pretty known for their material fragility, the craftsmanship, and how they are represented with respect to oral and literary forms. And they are still continuing. They have the inheritance of evoking emotions, actually. So probably when we look at puppet shows and all those things, we are actually exported to their own that particular toy world, because they are no longer toys to us, because they evoke a lot of feelings within us when we see that puppet show also goes on. All these things, that's the reason probably I have used the right word when I have given the title to this particular slide as why it is important to consider toys not merely plastic and wood, but absolutely sentient, the living, the conscious, the reactive, the agentic, and whatnot I can really think of anytime. So if somebody is planning to research like me, even I thought when I was really doing this slide for you people, I was also thinking that earlier I have got a best paper award for gendered toys. Now I think we all can look at toys, that Lego, I will talk about that Lego that you gave, the Barbie dolls that you gave, they all no longer have that element of just merely being toys in our lives. They have a lot of gender, femininity, sexuality, or for that matter, when we talk about Lego toys, they are very symbolic of STEM, the course that we really talk about, the STEM field that women wanted always to be, but are in lesser number. We talk about so many things actually. So no longer you can categorize toy as a toy, but rather toys also have the power to evoke a lot of feelings in us. And that's the reason I have given it a name called sentient toys. And then when we look at why all these things matter in children's literature, definitely they matter because they are a mediator between the human and the non-human, and they embody children's inner life. Probably, I'm sure today's talk will definitely correlate to your own children who play with toys, and sometimes I think they are very, very adamant on really foregoing with a particular toy they've been playing all the while from their childhood, in spite of they being in their teens or absolutely in their adulthood also. Yes, probably they attach a lot of identity of what they are, or probably they have that ownership with them. They name them sometimes, and they take care of their toys also absolutely so well. And probably if they are damaged, if they are actually broken, and if they lose, you can definitely feel that your children also won't feel good, because they have now established relational subjectivity, the theory that we have read yesterday by Braidotti. So all these things definitely happen. That is the reason I tell you they're no longer what you can think as passive ones. They're very agentic actually. And yeah, these very objects or things, for now, I'm sure none of us is aware about objects and things. What is the difference between them? In some more minutes, we will definitely know that there is a definite difference between objects and things from Bill Brown's thing theory. We will know it. For now, let me refer to toys only as objects. Yes, there are emotional repositories. They observe, they reflect our feelings. They're very emotive. They're very effective. And yeah, as I've been talking about, your child will definitely mourn the loss of the toy as real as how they mourn the loss of something which is very dear to them with respect to a human agency also. And when we talk about toy, material definitely matters. That is what I said, the toy's texture, or the kind of a color, or probably what kind of a material is used, their wear and tear. All these things signify time, the usage, and the emotional investment that we have absolutely in whatever we call a toy as a toy. A toy is no longer a toy. It is absolutely something which has got a lot of symbolic meaning in our child's life. Absolutely. And in children's literature, I'm sure we come across a lot of talking dolls, and especially Ruskin-born stories. We have old clocks, we have coins, we have trinkets. All these things create memory, us, identity, all these things. And picture books like Amachi's Amazing Machines are also very important because they talk about not only love or creativity, which is only existing in this generation, but it also transcends actually beyond generations. That is, intergenerational love and creativity can be observed whenever we talk about mechanical playthings. Probably they are absolutely the playthings in your child's life, but they are no longer that. They have a lot of emotions attached with respect to what your child experiences or uses in their life anytime from their ages of formation, or probably even in their adult ages also. I have seen so many people, or probably I have so many students who tell me that, ma'am, I have a specific pillow which I definitely make it a point to hug and sleep every day because I have a different attachment with that. Now you no longer can laugh and say, what is the role of a pillow in your life? And that too, that girl who is actually an adult, she says that she has a toy, Peppa Pig kind of a toy, and also what I can call a pillow that she holds so dear. Now, if you question them with respect to sense and sensibility, probably you can never attach some meaning to it, because nothing can or everything cannot be put in with respect to sensibility. Most of the time, we are human beings and we interact with non-human things too. There is something called relation we actually establish with all these things that come up in our life action. And then, what is a post-human turn? I meant in children's studies anytime. As I've been talking about Rosie Braidotti's non-unitary subject, whenever we talk about post-human childhoods, we have to think about how childhood is no longer a fixed entity. It is very entangled, enmeshed with so many toys, machines, animals, technology. Probably I don't talk about anthropomorphism here. Whenever we talk about Panchatantra stories, we not only use a different prop called animals. They are absolutely, we impart personification, that is anthropomorphism. We give a voice to animals and we talk about several things. That is not part of this particular study that I'm going to do it right now. I only will position childhood with respect to how they are entangled, enmeshed, embedded with respect to toys that they play with, machines they use, or even any figurines like animals or that they are absolutely into digital technologies. And I've been talking about how identity is very distributed across human and non-human in my previous slides, according to Rosie Braidotti. And there is one very interesting theory that I have to talk about today. That is Karen Barrett's theory of interaction. No, it is actually intraaction. What is it? I will tell you in some time. But this particular Karen Barrett's theory of intraaction talks about how there is a meaning and there is a matter which humans and non-humans actually are embedded with. So this is very important for us to understand, because toys act as co-agents. That is what I've been telling you, kind of a mediators in childhood experience anytime. We will talk about this. This is a very interesting one. And let me tell you, Karen Barad's theory, she has taken it from quantum theory of Neil Bohr, wherein she talks about how nothing is existing interaction. It's all intra. When we take the example of the atom from the quantum theory, when we take the example of the atom that we are trying to talk about, and the researcher, also the kind of an apparatus that we use, they are not existing in this, they come together as a phenomenon and then they create something new. It is not that they are interacting, but they have an interaction that they come together and produce. Same way, she what I can call, she positions this same theory to toys too. There is a human agency, there is a non-human agency. They both interact act together, and then what kind of a childhood experiences they produce as co-agents is what she talks in Karen Barrett's theory of interaction anytime. And we all also have seen yesterday itself by Donna Haraway's theory that childhood studies explore a lot of technological and material companions. As I said, we have virtual pets, AI friends, robotic toys, mechanical tools, whatnot we can. And they are all very important because they create identity. They co-construct the identity of this so-called child and the childhood. So if we have to talk about Toy Story, it is very sentimental. It is very philosophical in post-human understanding. Why? We no longer talk about human agency there. We no longer talk only about giving importance to human as a universal, rational, and wonderful. No, we decenter humanity, human as a soul centering position, and we give a lot of importance to even non-human entities like toys who cherish their own what I can call interdependence, independence from so-called agency of the human anytime. And then I was talking about Karen Barrett's theory. She's an American feminist theorist and physicist, and that is the reason why she borrowed theory from quantum theories of quantum physics theory. So now any scholar who is existing here can no longer tell that humanities are not important. We are very interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary because we already have an American feminist and a physicist who borrows theories from quantum physics. No longer quantum theory, quantum physics, and quantum mathematics are only for those fields of social sciences. We are part of it because our theory of interaction is also borrowed from Niels Bohr's theory, as I've been talking about the entanglement and interdependence of all the particles like atoms and the apparatus that they use, and the researcher, they all come, then they interact to something absolutely new. And how this can be used to literature is the idea of performity. No longer toys can be treated as something which are subjective. They have the element of performity. And when you look at a literary text also, you cannot think any text from human perspective that is only locating the book from the person who has written it. No longer. You also have to think about the non-human elements like the images that are involved, the physical object of the text itself, and how these things definitely interact with each other because they're embedded, they're enmeshed, and how do they mutually influence one another in the process of making meaning to us. So that is the reason why visuals are very important, and a picture definitely creates 1,000 things when you talk about one word which is actually written. That is the reason why we talk about how pictures communicate more than words anytime. That is the reason she talks about interaction. Things come together in their own way. Intra is self. Different things come together and then they form something very new, which forms different agencies as such. And now you can see here, this is a wonderful book by Sudha G. Tilak, wherein plastic toys and these indigenous toys, wooden toys, terracotta toys come together and talk, and they open a debate as to which is good. And you can see here the blue umbrella. See, the girl's blue umbrella is so dear to her that she lest case where is she landing up. Probably there is one particular aspect in the blue umbrella, the text itself, wherein she even goes atop the mountain to really catch hold of her umbrella when it flies off actually. And you can see here that she's on a tree, branch of a tree, and how she was daring to really hold that particular umbrella which is very near to her. And you can see here the eyes of, if you can see here in this particular picture of the Toy Story, you see the emotions that are evoked in all the wooden, you can see the Buzz Lightyear, one of the characters, you can see Woody here, and you can see there is no other pictures also you can see here. They're all part and parcel of their own world that they want to really free themselves. And here you can see Pinocchio, the wooden toy, which is very instrumental now in talking about morality and all these things. So no longer you people who are researchers of children's literature now can think of toys as mere toys. They have a lot of potential to invoke feelings because they are very important in creating a new agency, a mutual agency between the human and the non-human. They are very powerful in recreating that. And then I'll give you one simple slide which will talk about 3 texts. That is The Velvet and Rabbit by Marguerite Williams. I have already talked about the rabbit that becomes real. It earns to be real and it wants to become realistic with the love of the owner, and where we all can think that the toy is a mere prop, but it has the potential to invoke emotion. Now, when the very toy, which is an object, is becoming a thing because it has emotion now, that inner life, that symbolism is always shown through love. Don't worry, what is that object and thing? I will tell you in something now. But for now, you just read that, understand that a toy, which is an object, has the potential to become a thing which is attached with meaning. That is what you have to definitely understand. For now, don't really think about all these things. In the next slide, anyways, I'm going to explain. Just understand that here, that very toy has the potential to become so good symbolically with the love of its own, from being a artificial, what I can call a toy, to a human agency particularly. And then The Mouse and His Child by Russell Hoban. There is one particular toy where there are two mouse. Actually, there are two mice. One the father and other is the son. They are a keyed toy actually. When they broke, they were discarded, and there was absolutely no love attached to them. But one day, what happens? Somebody picks it up and they put it properly, and the toys are so fearful, and they have a lot of desires. They are so emotionally invested that they always wanted somebody to pick them up and really make their life much more beautiful. We can see from these two examples as there is no longer a line, a boundary, that you can say that this particular toy is non-human and it is actually converting to human. There is no boundary now, because that particular emotions which are only found in a human are now attached, are now felt, are now shown, are now imparted, are now what attributed, if I have to use the right word, to toys also, that we can see in this particular text. And they are not written now. They are written in 1922 and 2067. Absolutely. Dogger by Shirley Hughes is also one. There is a boy who has a beloved toy, the dogger, and he loses it. And this particular toy now becomes, I have been talking about how toys become memory, are symbolic of memory and emotional loss. This is one example where its absence really affects the child too much. And this particular toy now has created a feeling of memory, emotional loss to that particular boy who dearly loved it anytime. So this was what I was talking about with respect to toys and how they have the power of invoking emotions. And the key theories today we are going to talk about Sarah Ahmed, who talks about, she's one who talks about how emotions are always in flux. They are traveling between, they are circulating between people and things. Toys also carry love, loss, and comfort. The example that I'm going to discuss today is Edward Tulane and Toy Story, where toys no longer are non-human, they become emotional beings. Sylvan Tompkins also talk about basic effects. Now you can ask me, what is the difference between Sarah Ahmed's theory of effect circulation and basic effects theory by Sylvan? There is only one difference. Sarah Ahmed positions emotions from cultural perspective, whereas Sylvan Tompkins talks about emotions and basic effects from psychological perspective. That is the only difference between both. But they talk about how emotions are evoked and how they really keep transferring, keep circulating between people, human and non-human agencies. And Sylvan Tompkins talks about how the core feelings like joy, happiness, anger are potential factors of driving our behavior. And this you can also find in toys when we read stories that I'm going to talk today. And the very, very important, potentially, I think people who are planning to research in my field, that is children's literature, can think of really positioning toys by using thing theory, wherein Bill Brown talks about objects and things. There is a clear-cut demarcation, he tells you. Toys can no longer be considered only objects, they become things. When they lose that value, or when they are potentially damaged, they no longer remain objects, they become things to us. And they become things to us only because they have the potential to create emotions within us, because we are attached to that particular item. As long as you consider an object as an useful item, you are not investing in it emotionally anymore. But the moment that particular toy moves from an object to thing, it will definitely invoke a lot of feelings in you, and then it no longer holds the place of being an object in you, in your life. It becomes a thing in your life. You don't have to worry. I will definitely take one simple example, our mobile phones only, and I will show you how they are things to you and they are absolutely objects before turning to things. Now I have talked about Bill Brown Thing Theory 2001. Here he talks about all these things, how objects will become things, and how they have subject-object relationship, how we are forced to think about them not only as non-human agencies but human agencies too, and toys have the potential to carry personal, cultural, social, moral markers that are very important for our life, and how it is very important that we attach emotional, symbolic, and narrative, what I can call attributes to toys and things and objects anytime. You don't have to worry. Once again, I emphasize, the next slide will talk about all these things. Now, I'll give you an example to make these things clear to you, because this is very important when you have to understand today's topic of how objects turn to things and how toys move from being an object to a emotion, actually. Now, I will give you one simple example. You take the help of your phone. Probably when you look at your phone as an object, you never invest in it. And one more thing I can tell you, when you look at your phone as an object, you see through it. Actually, you will probably be scrolling your Insta, your Facebook, all these things. And you never give importance to your mobile phone with respect to any emotion attached to it, because you only view it as a phone, mere object, which has no other purpose in your life rather than helping you to look through it to different apps, to different understandings, actually. But think of a moment when your phone breaks. Probably, I'm sure each one of us sitting in this FTP, the moment your phone isn't working, or the moment your phone is acting crazy, or the moment your phone is completely broken, then starts our problem. Instead of looking through the phone, now that lines, that broken imagery of your phone's what you can call the so-called screen, will invoke lot of problems in your mind, because now you don't look at your phone as an object, you will look at the screen. You don't look through it now, you look at it. What is the difference? When the phone was perfectly functioning, you never have to bother about anything because you are good with it as an object which is serving you. But the moment it is actually shattered, all those things which you were doing earlier comes to your mind, saying that, oh no, now I have to go get it repaired, it will involve a lot of cost, it is actually disrupting my work. Now is the time when that particular phone comes to your conscious, wherein it no longer is an object. Now it has turned to actually your thing, because what was only serving as utilitarian purpose, that is only for utility, has now forced you to really think about it in your conscious, and no longer you can think through it. You can think, actually you can actually look through it, but you have to look at it because it's now stored in your conscious, actually. And this is what Bill Brown calls that every object that you think, when you look at it very normally, it is an object. But the moment you start investing, you're conscious to recall it to your memory, attaching several emotions, then is the time it actually becomes a thing to you. And he tells you the moment of the break, the moment that very phone which is familiarized to you till now has created that defamiliarization. I'm sure each one of us sitting here is very cautious, is very capable, competent enough to understand the word defamiliarization, which is a literary term again. When it becomes defamiliarized, that is a point where the thingness of the what I can call object, so-called, actually emerges, and it no longer serves the purpose of object. It only serves the purpose of being a thing to you, because it forces you now to get the imagery or to think about it through your consciousness. And that is the reason I tell you that when you look through it, it's an object. But when you look at it consciously, forcing your conscious mind, then it becomes a thing, because it evokes a lot of feelings in you anytime. I'm sure each one of us good enough to really associate, correlate with this, because that very phone creates a lot of emotions in us, because when the moment it breaks, in fact, I must say very metaphorically, we also break. So this is what talks about, how the objects no longer are objects, but they become really things because you invest a lot of emotions in them. And this is the theory all about. I've been talking, I don't want to repeat it because this is what he talks about. He clearly distinguishes in his talk where he talks about things. That is the first thing that he talked about in the how to do things with things is one, and things in 2001 he clearly distinguishes between objects and things that he talks for it. He talks about how objects are very functional, they're familiar, and they're integrated into our view, but they become thing the moment when their utility fails. That is when they are broken, or probably when they are broken toys, the doll is lost, or when they are discarded. Anything, everything, when it calls your attention to get reminded of it, then is a time an object is no longer object, it becomes the thing. And in narratives, how do we use it? When at the moment a toy breaks, it disappears, or it becomes no longer useful, then is a thing. The thing moment arises. The materiality of the toy, the so-called object, becomes very important, and we speak about it. Example, the Velveteen rabbit. I told you that the rabbit is a Velveteen one. There is a fur. When the fur is worn and torn, rubbed off, then is the time that very object called stuffed rabbit turns a thing, because it becomes real. Because like how we also have the wear and tear, so does that particular toy has. Its utility of being a object has now moved to thing, because it is experiencing something very human. And in Edward Tulin by Kate DiCamillo, you can see the China rabbit. The minute it breaks, it has physical and emotional evoking, because it no longer is to be considered non-human. It is absolutely human. In Toy Story 2, Andy's toy face becomes so useless, it is no longer wanted. That is the reason Andy disposes of. But the moment he realizes that his objects are all given away, he recollects, oh, that I had all these toys. He invokes so many feelings like memory, loss, identity, and all these things. And I was talking about the Great Toy Debate by G. Sudatila 2023 book. It is a small book. It is released. It talks about how toys become cultural markers also, because toys have that power to invoke cultural memory to all of us. And Indian traditions, thingness often carries a spiritual resonance. Probably we all will never have the potential to just discard the frames of the gods when they are broken, or for that matter, they are worn down. We never discard them as waste anytime, because we have that devotion, spirituality attached to it. Unlike Western philosophy, where they don't consider, when the object starts having no utility, they discard it and they dispose it. But we people attach cultural aspects, spiritual aspects to it, and that is where no longer a frame of a god, a relic no longer serves as an object for us, but it becomes thing to us very clearly, because it invokes a lot of cultural feelings to all of us. And then several examples I can give you. Kafka's The Metamorphosis, you can observe Samsa becomes, actually from a human, he becomes a monstrous thing. This is also one way of understanding from an object, human to non-human, you can think of here. And in Fitzgerald's The Great Gatsby too, the Daisy Dock, which is an object, which is a light, a neon shade light, no longer becomes an object, but it becomes a thing. It invokes American dream, class struggles, and past that one laments. All these things are attached to it even too. And in Toni Morrison's Beloved, the choke cherry tree is also a very good potential of thinking it no longer as an object, but a thing, because it records the unrecorded history, unspeakable, unvoiced history of slavery and violence, which can be understood by the person who only undergoes it. And then the Scarlet Letter A in the Scarlet Letter, the conch in the Lord of the Flies, and the rosebud in Citizen Kane, all these elements probably in one way are non-human, but now can definitely be positioned in the place of being human. They are sentient now. And then Sarah Ahmed's socio-cultural effect theory is where she talks about how emotions will move between people, they circulate, they travel, and they shape relationships with non-human entities. And there is one very important word, stickiness, we call sticky objects, as I say. Every object that we have in our life, we attach to it, we stick to it. That is the reason why people love their objects, symbols. They have certain symbols, certain objects that they always stick to. And emotions will also guide what we like and what we really dislike. And that is the reason why probably a white never likes a black, and so does a black anytime. And they also talk about communities. Probably the ongoing war of Palestine and Israel also talks a lot about how we share feelings for each other, which will have a potential understanding to create identities with respect to social, cultural understanding also. And emotions have the power to guide us through one particular direction where we head towards understanding things, but not in random, but we are very focused in understanding something with respect to how are we supposed to. And yeah, emotions have the what I can call potential to shape society in politics, politically also anytime. And then I was talking about the Barbie dolls that we give. Yeah, we adults have that aspect of attaching stickiness to it. Probably that is what I told you. 3 to 4 years, your child will learn gender so easily from these toys only that we give. Probably sometimes mindlessly and sometimes mindfully, we attach a lot of feminism to it, and there is a lot of consumerism to it. We have that westernized beauty that is actually looked at. But let me tell you, we also are passively imbibing all these feelings to our girl children when we are giving all these things. And I'm sure whenever we give a construction set like Lego and all these, we are wanting our children only to passively think about engineering, logic, masculinity. No longer we should be very careful whenever we are planning to give a toy as a gift to somebody, because they have a lot of emotions attached, and you have to think from Sarah Ahmed's thing theory, as well as absolutely Sylvan Tompkins, the theory of emotions that they will invoke. Sarah Ahmed's theory can be attached to a toy, because she says a toy is no longer a toy. It's a bundle of social emotions, future promises, if you can think of the Barbie doll itself. And it's an object that has learned happiness, or it can attach an emotion called fear that touches the child's life very passively, but very actively ingrained in the mind whenever you give it. That is the reason why we should understand that every material toy that we hand over to our children has become a very powerful, active force in teaching children what they are, who they want to be, how they want to be perceived, and where do they belong to in this particular world anytime. So we should definitely be very mindful and considerate whenever we are giving some toy, because toys talk. So Sarah Ahmed's cultural politics of emotion, she talks about how it's very important that objects do not only receive emotions, they mediate, they distribute, they circulate. And that is what happens. One simple example: child who is absolutely attached to toy can experience a comfort, loss, memory, identity, any feelings. In toy 3 story, if you observe, we can see each toy that the child is attached to has a different emotion that they invoke materialistically whenever he sees each and every toy. And in Indian folk tales also, talking dolls, they have the power of invoking emotion. They transfer the emotion from that mere toy when they play to the people who are watching it. That is the reason toys become effective technologies, because they store feelings, stickiness of feelings. That is what Sarah Ahmed actually talks. And Sylvan Tompkins also. And by the way, the biological and physiological underpinnings of emotions were talked by Aristotle in De Anima, Charles Darwin, and Sylvan Tompkins actually borrows the psychological emotions that we talk about, basic emotions, from Charles Darwin only. And it is also taught by William James and John Dewey during different years. And Tompkins borrows it from Darwin's concept. He has proposed so many inborn emotions within us. They can be surprise, they can be love, they can be hate, they can be anger, they can be rage, they can be shame, they can be humiliation, distress, anguish, disgust, dismal also. All these feelings are the basic feelings that Sylvan Tompkins talks about. And he tells that these effects are not necessarily recognizable consciously, but they become recognizable as emotions because they are attached with lot of personal and cultural experience that we attach to them. That is the reason it's important that we should understand affect theory not only from cultural and socio perspective, but physiological, psychological perspective also, because we attach a lot of feelings to the so-called toys. And then now I will give you the most important aspect: close reading and literary interpretation of Toy Story. This is a film, absolutely. and you have to watch. Only then you will observe visualistically how emotional toys are, and it lets us believe that even toys must have their own world at the end of the day. The story focuses on Woody the cowboy doll that has a feeling of jealousness and insecurity when Andy the owner gets a new toy, that is Buzz Lightyear, and how the very toy, wooden cowboy toy, experiences the feelings of fear, loss, loyalty, belonging. Again, we are going back to the theories of Sarah Ahmed and Bill Brown and Sylvan Tompkins also. Toy sentience, yes, toys can think here, they can speak here, they can feel here, they have friendships that they make, they have rivalries that they have. They actually mirror the same human world, emotions, behavior, but it is from a toy's perspective. That is the reason I said toy sentience, how they create their own world. And how can I attach it to the material or thing theory by Bill Brown? Toys are made of plastic, very ordinary consumerism, ordinary consumer toys. But when Woody starts feeling that belonging, that being replaced with, then is a time when Bill Brown calls that no longer the object is a wooden object, actually it becomes a thing, because that is a moment when the object stops being an object and starts carrying a lot of emotional meaning. Affect theory, the film shows emotions moving between human and toys. I think all of you must go today and watch this Toy Story. There are 4 versions of it, 4 sequels of it. Please do watch it. Only then you can understand what I can say. You can see that there are emotions between the owner and the toys which actually come alive whenever you observe. Because I've been talking about how Woody, excuse me, he is very jealous, and there is a lot of tension that he spreads with respect to other toys when he observes that there is a new toy which is being loved by the owner more than what he is. So you can see relationships building there, not only individuals, emotions circulating there, and that is what affect theory all talks about. In post-human theory, how can you place it? Now, post-humanism is all about decentering human and bringing something non-human, or talking about how we interact with them. Toys now come alive, and toys have a community, they have emotions, they have ethics, they talk about all these things. They have created their own agency, which is not human, but non-human agency. Key idea, Toy Story tells us how even toys have emotions, feelings, relationships, which exist beyond humans. They're that those simple objects, but they also hold fear, love, and identity. That is how Toy Story, the movie. And then The Miraculous Journey of Edward Tulin by Kate DiCamillo. Here she talks about a third-person narrative that is focused entirely on the toy that speaks, that is a China rabbit that speaks. The tone is very gentle, reflective, and emotional. Focus, as I've already discussed it, it is a toy that really is abandoned, it is thrown, but it will travel so much, and in the process of its travel, it will learn the lessons of love, pain, and empathy. And toy sentience, Edward cannot speak or move, it can only feel and think, but his immobile body also has the potential to create inner life, which is a contrast between her physical being very rigid, what I can call her physical being still, but she has an awareness internally that she travels and knows all these experiences and feelings also actually. Material and thing theory, the moment when Edward's China body cracks and breaks, now the utility is gone. It's no longer an object, it becomes a thing, because he according to Bill Brown's theory, when the object stops functioning correctly and it has got some repair, or it is out of proportion, then is the thing. It actually happens because it is not normal, and there is a time probably to invoke a lot of emotional feelings in the person who attaches absolutely with it. Affect theory, now the feelings started moving from human to toy. You can see that the owner actually has a lot of love for that particular toy actually, and he suffers when that particular toy is actually lost. And now not only the toy is feeling so bad that it is displaced and it is losing its owner part, also the owner is also feeling the same thing. Here emotions are circulating between the human and the non-human. And the post-human, there is no longer a blur in this particular case between the human and non-human, because Edward, though a toy, develops moral understanding, and his emotional growth talks about how empathy is not only human tendency, human skill, but it is also absolutely a non-human thing also. And the key idea, it is where you have to understand that empathy, love, suffering are not only connected to humans, but also connected to actually toys. One more, the Indian narrative, that is The Blue Umbrella by Ruskin Bond. This is a very short novella, which is in the Himachal Pradesh. It is situated in Himachal Pradesh. Very simple, very realistic language. The girl, Binya, she has a wonderful, beautiful umbrella, and everybody in the village also admire it. And there is one Ram Barosa. He is very jealous. He wants to get it by hook or crook. And how this particular umbrella, being an object, moves into a thing and changes, evokes a lot of emotions and relationships is what is the story all about. Object as a character. Now you have the object, the blue umbrella. It is no longer a character which is an object, but it is actually something which creates emotions also in people. It draws admiration, it draws desire, conflict. How people feel and behave is how this particular object will characterize all these things. Material and thing theory, the umbrella starts as a useful object. Everyone loves it. And Bill Brown's thing called thing theory comes into play when people actually attach a lot of social and emotional meaning to it. It is no longer that metal and cloth. It becomes a symbol of pride and beauty. Everyone wants to own it because it's very beautiful actually. Affective theory, umbrella carries a lot of emotions. Binya's joy, Ram Barosa's jealousness, and later how it creates the emotion of generosity. So you can see the emotions moving from one person to the entire community there. Entire village wants that. They love it. They want to attach to it. They want to really own it. All these feelings. Posthumanism, a thing which is actually a thing actually has become an object now which everybody loves, and there is no one subjectivity. There's relational subjectivity. We are creating a lot of relations with non-human properties also. And it also talks about ethics, that how humans should definitely have an ethical attachment to all these things. Key idea, this particular blue umbrella will also teach us morals, that everyone's the object which is owned by somebody can definitely create a lot of jealousness, but we are not supposed to have that immoral feelings towards any, and we should also develop our emotional lives which are ethical also. And yesterday people were asking me about the suggested readings. I have got all these elements after reading all these things, and this marks the end of my PPT. Actually, I'll stop sharing and I'm open to any questions from the audience.
Ma'am, good evening.
Very good evening.
Fantastic presentation, ma'am. The way you are referring to different theories and examples, they are really great, ma'am.
Thank you
I
so
have
much.
to applaud, ma'am. One more, when you are telling about the story, I recollected all of a sudden a story of the Japanese
Yes.
Johnny Soko and the flying robo.
Yes, there
When
is
it
one more.
used to telecast in Doordarshan in 1980s to 1990. So
Okay.
how emotional it was. He used to take a watch and he used to call when the boy was in problem. So
Yeah.
it made me recollect that. Thank you,
Yes.
ma'am. Thank you for
I'm
your
so
wonderful.
glad. Probably not only Purnima ma'am, everybody in this meeting must have had some experience with respect to toys never being objects, but definitely they are things in our life because they occupy a lot of emotional feelings that are attached. Absolutely. Somebody, some questions, I'm open to it. I feel it shows his morality, and yes, ma'am, that is how that is what makes our field of children's studies potentially a wonderful area that we can talk from A to Z of every theory that we can really think of. Thank you so much, ma'am. The presentation, yes, I have really spent a lot of hours to put all these things across. And somebody was asking me if it is a question, could it also represent how the embraces free will at the end, become inhuman? Yes, ma'am. Kaya ma'am, you have really pointed out something very, very important. At the end of the day, when we blur the relations between non-human and human, the will, the fate also sometimes is what we meet, which is very identical to what a human undergoes with respect to even the toy too. I hope I answered it. Yes, whatever is mentioned for a human sometimes also must be taken the same for the toys too, because they are no longer non-human, but they are absolutely human. So I hope I have answered that. And any questions I'm open to.
So, ma'am,
Yes. Yeah.
so, ma'am, actually, your paper yesterday, I did go through your paper, toys as gender tools, and you incidentally talked about it today. So, as per my understanding and my cursory glance, your central argument was that toys perpetuate stereotypical gender roles, steer away the girls from STEM faculties, and pushes the boys towards a very aggressive masculinity idea. So,
Yeah.
as a solution, you have proffered gender-neutral toys by a certain company that
Yes.
allows the children to customize the gender of their dolls.
Absolutely.
Now, do you see it as a solution to dismantle the rigid gender binaries? Because, as per my opinion, toys not only perpetuate gender roles, but they also correct children's understanding of the gender within the binary of a man and a woman. So, and why this question, and again, your paper and your work becomes pertinent is because of that whole boycott Netflix that's going on, you
Exactly.
know. So, if you can broach upon that, maybe.
Let me tell you, ma'am, I'm so glad you asked me this question. But the very minute when you talk about binary, post-human is all about non-binary. Yesterday I was pointing out, right? There were Catherine Hale's theory as well as Rosie Bradetti's theories where they say no longer you can
You talked
consider
about
the
absence of
binaries.
gender. You talked about absence of gender
No,
also.
that's what,
Yes.
ma'am. Gender is an identity. It is a binary, right? Man,
Yeah.
woman, girl, boy, isn't it? Are they not the binaries that we look at? But in post-human childhoods, that is what we say. There is no one childhood, man. There are so many fluid childhoods. Also, that is where I will definitely make it a point to say from what I am learning through all these theories to that, probably I can come up with one more solution where I can say, first of all, don't have that binary. Don't attach that binary aspects to toys also. And that is the reason probably I suggested then only that it is better to really give toys which are neutral, which will not invoke, which will not create that aspect of binaries. And not only that, ma'am, the colors too that we give to students. Pink is for girls, blue is for
Yes.
boys. Who anytime said that? Why can't a man wear a pink shirt anytime? Or can a girl child ever play with a what you can call what I can call an airplane? Why only a doctor said anytime to all these things? I would say that this is where post-human childhood also will suggest one very strong point to us that don't fix things with respect to human. You humans have created that universality and you look at only from your perspective. That is what yesterday's and today's theories will debunk, deconstruct that. Don't get into these binary odds. There is nothing called binary as such because things have become quite relational, non-human. Human interactions are becoming so close and no longer things can be attached with utility purpose. They have many other purposes to serve. That's what is my take.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Yes. Ma'am, I have a question. If you have watched Wednesday, yes, I did watch Shreya, ma'am. There is a character called Thing. How do you differentiate it from a toy if you think so, or you consider it as an amputated part of a human body which possesses the utility of a thing according to thing theory? Please throw some light. Ma'am, I did watch Wednesday, but to my bad, I'm unable to recollect that particular character. Probably I will remember this question and I'll get back to this actually tomorrow because
Ma'am,
it's a wonderful question.
thing is that the hand, amputed hand that follows.
Yes, I do. But probably it's been so long I watched. Now, when the question is with respect to thing theory, I have to give ma'am a perfect answer, which I will definitely do it tomorrow for sure.
Yes. Yes.
Because I cannot recollect that. I am information overloaded right now. So probably I can definitely give that answer to you tomorrow, ma'am. Probably I'll try my level best to put it in thing theory and give you a better answer possible because I'm unable to recollect that particular aspect right now. Any other questions? I'm open. I'll copy this question also, ma'am. Right. If there are no more questions and if I can genuinely ask for a feedback, I hope I'm clear to everybody. I'm making things clear to all of you.
Ma'am, there is one discussion by Dr. Riaz Ahmed, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Could you please read it for me because I'm pasting madam's question so that I can answer it tomorrow.
So, Dr. Riaz says, can you, ma'am, enlighten us with regard to how children's literature represents agency of non-human natural entities such as trees, water, landscape, post-human ecological themes he's broaching upon?
Sir, if I can tell you, when you ask me to enlighten about the eco-critical aspects of all these entities, I must say I'm not really into ecological themes or ecological aspects. They are pretty much that we have to look at, because there is one substrata of children's literature that will talk about children's activism with respect to climate change, and ecological factors also. I would say that I don't have that kind of a knowledge, because I haven't dealt with ecological elements in children's literature as of now. Probably I will definitely make it a point to look up for this, and I will definitely answer you this tomorrow. I am not into this particular terrain of research anytime, but I will definitely, as this is a very good question, I will definitely go back and answer it tomorrow, if that is okay. Right, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Of course.
Right.
So just to clarify, ma'am, in the weekend we don't have classes, right?
Yeah, on the
We'll
weekends
meet on Monday.
we will meet only on Monday, and
Yeah.
on Monday again we will come up with one more topic, that is algorithmic friends. How these Y bots, chat bots, and all the bots that we are thinking about, that AI, digital avatars, and all those that we talked about. We'll come back to that, and we'll see another interesting aspect of this particular session. And we will definitely get into other theories. See you all then. Have a great day, and good night.
Good night, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I will definitely answer the questions on Monday. See you all. Have a great day.
Thank you, ma'am. So should we leave? We will reconvene on Monday. Okay, good night to all.